Usually when you want to declare a variable, right? कैसे करते हो आप? Single variable. X is equal to 10, Y is equal to 20, and this is very basic values, right? This is what we do, right? But I can tell you that you can all do all of this in a single line. How? X comma Y comma Z is equal to 10 comma 20 comma 30. And this also does the same thing. Now this is an example of tuple unpacking. How? Because I'm assigning three values to three variables in one shot in a single line. Okay? Do you see a connection between writing code like this versus writing code like this? Do you see a connection? It's the same thing, right?
Yes, sir.
Right? Just that by writing values on RHS in this cell 21, these are integer values. Individual values that are integers, 10, 20, 30, all are individual values, integer values. But when you define something like this on the RHS, what is this? It's a, and I'll show you one more thing, okay? Just hang on. Let me define a variable like this. Okay. Now tell me what is the nature of this variable. If I do a type function on this, then what will come as the output? Okay. Let's kill the suspense. It's a tuple. Okay. So when you put multiple values that are separated by comma, you are essentially creating a tuple. In your experience, how have you defined tuple? You can tell me that.
So a tuple is collection of data types that are immutable.
But how have you defined them? Let's say if I want to define a tuple with values 40, 50, 60, how do I define it? There's a list bana rahe na. For example, I'm creating a list like this. My question is, how do I create a tuple exactly like this? So we use brackets, right? We use round brackets, na? Okay. And let me call this as nums tuple. So this is the usual method of creating a tuple. In list, you use square brackets, correct? First line, you are using square bracket. For a tuple, you need round bracket, something like this. Okay? And just recall, it's totally fine in case you forgot, but just recall and be here. Key to get a tuple, I just need to change the brackets, round brackets. Okay? And then I can check that this is indeed a tuple. Okay? But then what is this? This has no brackets. It is also a tuple. So essentially what it is telling you is that for you to define a tuple, there are two different ways. There are two different methods. One is method number one without using brackets, and one is where you can use a bracket. Right? So this is usually not taught, which is where learners get confused what exactly is happening here. Right? So as basics of tuple, what you should know and pay attention to is how do you define a tuple? One is by creating brackets, by declaring brackets, and one is you should also realize that it creates a tuple without brackets also. Okay, now will you remember this, people?
Yes, sir.
Okay, please do remember a tuple can be created without using round brackets also. By using brackets, you will definitely get, but this is also fine. Now, once you know that, what I'm doing here is just declaring a tuple on the RHS. The same thing is happening here also, no? And in a way, I'm declaring a tuple and I'm unpacking that tuple to these three variables. Right? So it's as if I'm writing something like this. It's as if I'm writing something like this. Okay, just look at these three lines, 22, this one, and then this 23. I've broken it down into two parts. I've shown you that values when declared as 10, 20, 30 is a tuple. And individually also 10, 20, 30 is a tuple. And I can write something like this also. It has the same effect whatsoever. Okay, and do spend a few minutes on this, right? Just with a peaceful mind. What is essentially happening is you are assigning values in order. You are assigning 10 to X, 20 to Y, and 30 to Z. That's what is happening ultimately, nothing else. Right? So this is an example of tuple unpacking. On the RHS, you have a tuple which has certain number of elements. And like I said earlier, you can have brackets or you need not have brackets, right? You can put a tuple like this with brackets, or you can put a tuple without brackets. It's one and the same thing. Just that on the LHS, there should be same number of variables. Same number of variables as what? Same number of variables as the number of items are there here. And as you can see in line number 22, you have three variables on the LHS and three values in the tuple on the RHS. And that provides values in one shot. Okay. I'll quickly execute this code, and I think that will clarify things to a certain extent. Okay, so I'll just one second. Let's add some cells, and first let me define x, y, z as values 10, 20, 30. Okay, let's also add some cells here and print the values. Print x, y, z. Right, so because of this cell the values are 10, 20, 30. Okay, and let me take this line. I'll make a copy of this and put it here, and let's take this below, and let's change the value to 70, 60, and 50. Okay, now if I run this and this gives no error, then you should be able to see na ki once I'm printing the values of x, y, z, this should give me 10, 20, 30, or this should give me 50, 60, 70 when I run this cell. Okay, so why am I taking this example? Because I'm trying to tell you that if you write a line like this does assign value, and that's the reason the values of x and y and z have changed. Right? Changed compared to what? Compared to the usual way of defining the variables here. Okay, so this is a concept of tuple unpacking, and the same thing is being applied here. If you look at this, okay, and how can I say tuple unpacking is indeed applied here? How can I say that? Because if you remember, when I did I for I, or let's say this cell for I in this, then what was each I value? It was tuple, right?
Yes.
In each I value of enumerate output is a tuple. So when I iterate, essentially I'm accessing tuple only in each iteration, and I'm just assigning to each tuple the variable names, index, and value. So it's as if writing on the LHS that this is my index, comma, value. Right. So for each of these values, I'm assigning index and value by putting a comma, something like this. So again, that tuple unpacking concept is applied here. Okay. Later on, you will use this very commonly. I'm seeing this in deep learning. I've seen this in machine learning very commonly. Data science, data analysis में भी होता है ये. Right. So again, these should be known to you. What is tuple? How to define tuple in multiple ways, and then what tuple unpacking is. Is it clear, guys? Clear?
Yes, sir.
And this is also a way of running for loop on two variables, isn't it? It is, right? This is also a way of running
Yes,
for
sir.
loop on two variables. You are now able to run a for loop on two variables, and then you can do a lot, right? So I think I'm already exceeding time. So what you should do, if you have time now, after I wrap up, is try to use enumerate in this small example that we developed. Try to replace range, len, nums, and then plug in enumerate and then solve the same problem.